Today we're going to be assembling the new tennis court benches. We've got two options. You've got backed and backless with various colours. So this one is 2.1 metres. There's also a 1.5 metre option. This is basically your finished article and it's super easy to put together. So don't stress, if you're not very DIY capable, these are perfect. So if we just take a look over here, this is the 1.5 metre version. The only difference in the 1.5 is that you have two legs and you have to fit these additional back fixings, which I'll show you how to do, but they will basically slot into the back of the backed section of the bench. That's a lot of back in one sentence. But on the 2.1 metre, the longer version, if you just take a look, you literally have three legs. So it's really easy. You don't have to fit these additional bits. The legs just do the talking essentially. So what you get in the box, in the 1.5, you get these additional supports. You then have the back section. Just remember the bench always curves away. So when it's on the back of the bench, you'll have a curve this way. And if this were, for example, the seating bit, it would curve to the front. So that's the backed upright section. The way you can tell is you have 4 bolts on each join. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that just repeats across. And then on the seated section, as you can see, they're lightweight, but feel quite structurally solid. So these will be quite durable. On the seated section, so if you imagine seated section curves away at the front, flush at the back, there's 6 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And these copy their way across like so. So that is how you know between the seat and the back. The backless version, if we go across again, even easier. We'll put chapters in the video so you can skip around. The backless version is even easier, sorry. Let me get my words out. You've got 3 legs and you have the seat with, again, 6 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That just copies on each join. And again, always the seat bows away from you. It doesn't actually matter too much on the backless version, so it kind of bows on both sides. But then all you do is essentially, we'll do it in detail, you drop them on and you fasten some bolts. This one is super simple. In fact, they're all quite simple. Inside the box as well, if I just reach into my pockets, you will get, here we go, you'll get a bag of bolts. So inside each box, you'll get a bag full of nuts and bolts, spring washers, and even a spanner to help you out. You will also get, I reach into my other pocket, some caps that resemble the colour of bench you've purchased. And once you've got the nuts and bolts on, these will just fit over the top. Super, super simple. So I will get the backed version prepped and we'll jump in and start assembling. The first step is, once you've got it all out of the box, you're going to want to get your backed section, which you'll know by the 4 bolts only instead of 6. On the 1.5 metre, again, you're going to need these, which are the additional supports. On the 2.1 metre, you won't have them, you've just got 3 legs. And then it's a case of getting the orientation right. So I'm obviously facing you. If you imagine you're in the same way, so I'm going to turn this at 45 degrees to me and then get my support and sort of, I'll rotate this for you. There you go. So what I've done there, I'll make this easy for you. If you have it facing away from you with the arched bit away, so you can tip it onto it at 45 degrees, you'll then, these supports, as you can see, they kind of kink off. You're going to want to match that to the kink inside the back. And once you've got it aligned, you'll see that it just sits quite nice and flush inside the back section. If you happen to get this the wrong way round, i.e. this bit fastens to the seat section of the bench, If you get it the wrong way around, what you'll find is you'll get one bolt in, but the top 2 bolts won't have a hole to seat in. So that's how you know you've got it the wrong way around. Once you've got it aligned, washer, nut, once you've got it all aligned, get it in hand tight. You also get spring washers. They help to stop the nuts seizing in. It's totally optional whether you want to use them. But basically, go around all 4 bolts with a washer and a nut and an optional spring washer if you so want to use it. These pockets are very deep. We've got lots and lots of washers and nuts in here. And there we go. And then once you've got it hand tight, you're going to want to go around with a spanner and tighten it up. I'm going to finish this second one and then we'll come back once it's all tightened and we'll get the caps on. Okay, so I've got the back supports in. I'm now going to fit them to the back of the legs. As you can see, it's quite light. When it comes to the legs, I'll turn this one around so you can see. Basically, in here are 4 holes. There's actually more than you need. So it's just a case of finding the correct ones which align the bench. You may want a second person to help. But basically, once you've got it in, as you can see, the bolts flushly come through the other side, and it's just a simple case of putting a nut and a washer over the bolt. I'm going to just rest that on its side. Again, if you want to use 2 people, you can, but as you can also see, it's quite simple to do on your own. Once you've put one washer and nut on, it's the same across the whole bench. So we'll speed this bit up. And then don't forget just to always tighten every bolt. It doesn't need loads of force. But every bolt with a spanner, which comes in the pack, nice and tight. Now you want your other leg. Same again finding the right holes because there are more than what you need. Sits together quite nicely. I'll put these nuts on very quickly and come back once we're ready to put the seat on. Okay, so I've just finished tightening the bolts onto the legs. If I rotate this, you can see what the supports were for earlier. Again, if you're building a 2.1, you won't have these, you'll just have one leg dead center, just like this one here. So you won't have the supports, you'll have just another leg, which is even simpler to put together because you don't have to fit the supports. And this goes for all benches. You've then got your seat section, and now this bit is just an aligning up job. Once it's aligned and you've got a few bolts in, it just clicks together essentially. So bear with whilst I find the holes. Okay, so I've put my nuts and washers on this side, just hand tight. I'm not going to do anything tool tight yet because it will just allow some movement in the parts. It's in a very simple case of working from this side to the opposite side. You may find it's easier to drop the bench onto its back, which may give you more access to these sections. So what you may find is, if you can see with this one, we're sort of just pulling out a bit just because the bolts aren't there yet. So you may get all these aligned, but you can't quite push it in, probably because some bolts further along are just making contact with the plastic. So you just want to make sure that they're all in a hole so that you can push your next section fully in and get your nuts onto the end. So if you have a look at this one, you can see it's been pulled to the left. So I'm just going to straighten it up, make sure all those holes are lined. There's one bolt giving me a bit of jip. There we go. So I'm happy that they're somewhat aligned. You can see we're way off. That's where the nuts and bolts come in. To give it a bit of play, or to take that play away from it rather. But I actually find that if you rotate it this way to give yourself more visible access, the weight is pulling the seat away from the supports. So I would recommend keeping it upright, dealing with getting on your back, on your knees, to put these bolts in. But now I've been able to see that all these bolts are aligned, I can now quite easily go around with nuts and washers and tighten this one up. So we'll be back once this is fully tight. Okay, so I've tightened the opposite side with nuts and washers, just hand tight again. And now it's just a case of setting the middle supports. Now, what you might find is if you use your body weight, it will support you. You'll notice if you sort of wobble along, you can feel the supports like actually biting to the bolts now, which is what you want. So you may need to just use your body weight just to really get the two parts secured. And then once you've done that, you can go through again, nuts and washers. Okay, this is now your backed bench fully assembled. The last step is, of course, anything we did hand tight, go back through and make sure you do tool tight with your spanner. And then the finishing touch, over every nut and bolt, you've got these white caps. And they just simply, just hand pressure, pop them on over every visible bolt. And that will just really help tidy it up and just take away any eyesore really. But once you've fully capped it, that is how you assemble your backed tennis bench. And now we'll move on to the backless. Okay, and for your backless bench, no matter the length, 2.1, 1.5, you simply roll over the seated section. Again, this is going to have your 6 bolts. Your legs, flip them upside down. And then simply, they slot over like so. But once you've got all 3 legs aligned upside down, it's just a case, again, washers, nuts, tool tight. And I'll blitz through this. It will probably take you 5-10 minutes, if that, and then your bench is assembled. Okay, so I've gone through, tightened all my bolts up. What you may find is some of the plastics will want to catch and not quite seat as you'll want them. So what I find is if you just give it a bit of pressure on the feet or the middle of the leg, you'll give yourself a lot more bolt to screw onto, and the plastic will really seat into place. It doesn't take that much effort. You may find as well that some of the plastic will sort of bite to one side, so you can use that flathead screwdriver or a bit of force, and you'll just get it to snap. You'll hear it snap quite audibly into place, and then you can carry on bolting as normal. Then finishing touch on every one of your bolts, you've got some lovely colour coordinated caps. Okay, and once you get your plastic caps on, simply roll your bench onto its feet and enjoy a well-deserved rest. And that is how you assemble our Vermont plastic tennis court benches.